Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Chad Harberts Show. I'm pinch hitting for Chad again this week. I think he's out covering girls golf today, state. We have started our coaches interviews throughout the summer, and I'm really excited to have Scott Heitland, the head football coach from Dallas Center Grimes, on today. Welcome, Scott.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Yeah, I really wanted to interview you because I've been really impressed by how you went up a class last year in terms of football.
Correct.
How you've been able to build a football program in a very fast-growing area in the Des Moines Metro. So you've gone up, how you've built an infrastructure, what your booster club is doing, which I think is one of the best in the state, and really just talk about your program. But first, let's talk about your personal journey.
Sure.
How'd you get into coaching?
I grew up as a coach's kid. My dad was a high school football coach here in Iowa for a little over 30 years up in Algona. And so I grew up in the family business, right? I was around it growing up. And when I got out of high school, I thought, I'll get my coaching authorization, a good way to make a little summer money. My high school baseball coach said, come back, coach a little freshman baseball for me. I did that, and I coached freshman baseball for him one year. But then I got a phone call from a kid that I went to high school with, is about 3 or 4 years older than me. And he said, hey, what'd you think about coaching 8th grade middle school basketball? And I go, does it pay? And they said, sure. And I said, why not? And I went and coached 8th grade middle school basketball at Aplington Parkersburg with a kid I went to high school with named Darren Hewitt. And the next year I got a phone call from Ed Thomas, and he said, hey, do you want to coach football? And I said, sure, because this was a pretty good gig for a college kid. Pay wasn't too bad, and I got to go hang out and do sports things. So I was a big fan of that. Cut ahead 3, 4 years. By the time I'm a senior in college, I'm coaching freshman football in Parkersburg, middle school basketball, assistant track with Coach Thomas, and I was the head baseball coach. Yeah. It thrust me into some situations that I was really fortunate to be in. And so when you look at that personal story and the background, there's 2 people that I'm where I'm at today because of 2 people. The first is my dad, and the second is Ed Thomas. Growing up, watching Dad do what he did, and the way he did it was very influential and shaped me a lot into who I am. And then being around Coach Thomas and getting an opportunity just to, with the opportunities he gave me across multiple sports, but also just to be around the program that he had built. And they had been and have been wildly successful up there. And so that was a good thing for me to experience too. But that really ignited another level of kind of a passion for the game that I didn't even know I had working there during that time. And so got done in college, and I had 2 stops prior to Dallas Center Grimes. I was at Prairie Valley, and I got to work with some amazing people there. Mike Dick was my principal, who's now retired, and he retired as the director of the Girls High School Athletic Union. And then Jason Klingensmith, who I coached along with there, who's now the principal out at Sergeant Bluff Luton. Those 2 guys were hugely influential to me there. I spent 5 years in Boone, and I worked with a number of coaches there, but Mark Kamenis, Jim Paulson, Jim Dose were guys that stood out there that I still connect with today that, again, helped me progress along this pathway to prepare me as best as I could to come down here. And I've been in Grimes since 2003, so getting ready for season number 23, which sounds really weird to say that out loud. It doesn't. It really doesn't. But as I look in the mirror, I got the gray hairs to show it that it's been a minute. But it's been a great place down here at Dallas Center Grimes. It was important for me when I knew I wanted to be a head coach to try to find a place where athletics were important, where football was important. And I've been able to find both of those things here. And it's been a great experience here at DCG.
That's great. Coach, tell us about your family. I know every coach on this is very humble about their family, but your son's a senior this year on the team, and he's being recruited. Talk about your family and just give us a little background there.
Sure. There's, outside of my dad and Coach Thomas, there's probably 2 other people I need to mention that have put me where I am and have supported me. Number 1 is my mom. I think any good coach has a really strong network of people at home, and my dad had that with my mom. And she did so many things that also influenced me and my brother that maybe didn't show up as a skill of throwing or catching type of thing, but just the type of person that she raised us to be. And then the second person would be my wife, April. We've been married for 17 years now, and she's a principal here in our district. She's in education. She's in the same school district that we are in. And she has a great knack of giving me a little boost when I need it, but also keeping me grounded when I need to. And does a great job of taking care of everything outside of the football season so that I can football as I think any coach knows, you're coaching year round now anymore. There's no such thing as having a season and then having an off season. It's just something that's happening all the time. And she does a great job of that. We have two boys. I have my oldest is Chase. He'll be a senior this fall, and he does play football for us. And will come back as our leading wide receiver this year and a punt return, kick return guy. He's got goals of playing after high school, and he's got a chance with some opportunities that have been extended to him this spring, which is exciting. And so he's going through that process, and I'm going through that as a dad for the first time instead of a coach. That's a very different experience. Hopefully it will help me help kids down the road a little more. And then we have our other son, Andrew, is a sixth grader, and he is into everything that involves an instrument and singing and fine arts. And so he's just as busy on the different end of the spectrum when it comes to your fine arts stuff versus the athletic stuff. So very lucky to have a great family support network at home, and appreciate everything that they do to allow me to do what I do.
Yeah, Coach, I like how you didn't really mention your brother Brent's name. I appreciate that brotherly rivalry.
Yeah.
But he's a longtime coach down at Waukee Northwest and Waukee, and his son Mac is a pretty good player for Waukee Northwest. So it is possible that the cousins may end up playing together. You never know.
That'd make Grandpa happy because it'd be a lot easier for Grandpa to get to games when he only had to go one place versus two. But yeah, Brent just made the decision this spring to wrap up his coaching career, both football and track, and real proud of him too. He's been at one district his entire career, which I think is pretty amazing. And student taught at Waukee, and then was fortunate enough to be hired there and worked his way up through elementary to middle school and then eventually high school, and has coached football and track for pretty much the duration of that, and been very successful in his own right. So
he's gonna follow Mac now. He's going to Western Illinois, and he's gonna go into dad phase. So that's really cool. So thank you for the family background. Like most coaches, it's amazing how many people I talk to. I was raised in a football family. We talked about it breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Poof, all of a sudden I'm a coach. Great story. And some great mentors. Nobody better than Ed Thomas is a mentor. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the Dallas Center Grimes program.
Yeah.
It's been really interesting to me coming back from Georgia the last couple of years. When I left 15 years ago, it was not a very big school. Now you continue to grow in one of the fastest growing parts of Des Moines. Now, last year you made the big jump from 4 to 5, right?
Yes.
And you built a heck of a program and got a heck of a booster club. You made the playoffs. Give me a talk about how the program has changed over the 23 years you've coached it.
Yeah.
And then what kind of support you get from the community.
Yeah. So the program itself, in 2003, when I got here, we had been a class 3A program at that time for 4 years. So Steve Watson, who coached prior to me, had navigated the program through that jump from class 2A to 3A. And during the time that I've been here, we've gone from one of the smallest programs in class 3A to one of the largest programs in class 3A to a 4A program when they created class 5A, and one of the bigger programs in class 5A. And now, again, as you mentioned, the jump last year to class 5A. It's been an interesting process. I think if someone would have asked me 5 years ago, hey, do you think you'll play 5A football very soon? I would have told them we were probably 2 to 4 years away from that yet. It happened a little sooner. I didn't think that my son's class would see it. I thought they'd finish as playing 4A football. Well, that's going to be next year. We made that jump a little sooner than we thought. But our growth has as much to do with what's going on here and what's going on around us. Yeah. When we were flying up through class 3A, we were adding kids, but a lot of people would say, oh, you're a lot like Waukee and their growth. Waukee's growth was just on a skyrocket. They were just leapfrogging people every year. Ours was a little more steady climb and a little more controlled. But what we couldn't control were the schools above us that were tumbling. And I think that's something that gets overlooked by people sometimes when you look at the ascent of some schools up through the classes. Yes, they're getting bigger and they're growing. You look at some of the schools that are tumbling. When I was at Boone High School back in the 1999, 2000, we had 210, 215 kids a class, and they do not have that anymore. Yep. There were 800 kids in that high school, 700, 800 kids in the high school, and now they're in the 400 and 500 range. So our climb and our ascent has had a lot of things to go with it. Where we've been very lucky is we're in an upper middle class suburb community where our kids have had the opportunity to, as we've grown, they have the opportunity to attend a lot of camps, and their parents are able to get them involved in summer activities where we can help develop them. They seek out some training on their own, both as athletes and sports specific type of things. And so as we've gone through this growing process, that's been the part of it that I think that has helped us stay competitive. The other part of it I think our district is at a point where this is still very important is we still have a lot of multi-sport kids here at Dallas Center Grimes. And that's going to be really important for us as each of our programs now continues to start to creep into that bigger class. Wrestling's been in the bigger class for a while. Girls basketball is going to be in the bigger class. Boys basketball, you can go up and down the list. I think almost all our sports, but maybe one or two are in that big class. And for us to be able to continue to compete and be successful in those bigger classes, our kids are going to have to continue to be multi-sport kids here. At the end of the day, we've got 250-ish kids in each class. A lot of our people that we're competing with around us have got 450 kids per class. And when it gets right down to it, it's still just the bottom line is it's a numbers game. So that's going to be really important for us as we move forward to get our kids to understand that specialization is something that could end up hurting us all in the future versus helping us, which is what they may think is that I need to do this one thing and be really good at it. But if everybody does that, it's going to end up hurting us across the board.
Yeah. Coach, one thing I think that has impressed me about watching your program a little bit from afar is I think it's also about building a community and working with the booster clubs in the community. Yeah. And one thing that has really impressed me about your program is you got a YouTube channel of your own that does a really good job of broadcasting games. You have branding and how you do within the community is important. You got a really cool logo. You got a good color scheme. When you're in Dallas Center Grimes, you see a lot of that Mustang logo and apparel. So I think that's really important to create that sense of community because then it creates better participation rates. I think they go hand in hand.
It does. And I think you bring up a really good point in that if you're not telling your story, who is? And I figured out pretty quick down here when I got here that I came from communities, smaller communities, had their own local paper, their own local radio, and we were covered quite regularly with everything. But down here, when you're in the metro and you're fighting for that attention, I learned really quick that if I wasn't in one of the big schools, I'd get an article, I'd get a coverage in the years that we were winning football games and good. But even then, the main page of the paper, which at that time there wasn't as much online stuff 20 years ago, but it was still going to be the 4A schools. It was still going to be the main metro schools. So I think the one thing that our booster club just excels at is selling our brand, selling our programs. And you hit the nail on the head. Probably the one great thing that came out of all that chaos in 2020 was streaming services for high school sports. And we do a tremendous job here of streaming all of our activities. And we've got a lot of people in the community who love our sports and love our kids, and they want to volunteer and be part of that broadcast team. None of those people are getting paid. And last year during football, we were able to broadcast all of our home games. We do a coaches show on Wednesday after practice that they broadcast prior to the game on Friday night.
Yep.
We talk about last week's game, and we talk about this upcoming opponent. The group does such a good job, and they've invested in it. It's not cheap to do that stuff. And so they've invested in not only the equipment to do it, but also the ability to have that option, not only for football, but for basketball and baseball and soccer and everything else. Our booster club's commitment to our kids is really unique in that I've never gone to them and said, hey, I really could use this, and have them say no. If you go to them with something that you need and you tell them how it's going to benefit our kids and how it's going to help them have a better experience or to have a better chance of success, they're going to step up and support you with that. And so we've had some great leaders on our booster club over the years. I'm not even going to try to mention them because I'll leave somebody out that I shouldn't, but our booster club presidents, our ADs, the people that volunteer, because those are volunteer organizations. And there's a lot of people who invest heavily in that, and they've just done a wonderful job. And again, they've taken that kind of approach to heart. We're going to tell our story. We're going to share about our community. We're going to make sure our kids, it's out there for people to see. And I think they do a great job of that. And then we just try to piggyback off that with our programs. You said, I've always told our coaches and kids that our kids get a lot of t-shirts, and
Yeah.
they get a t-shirt for coming to football camp. We have order forms where they can buy some more of their own. But any chance I get, I'm going to give a kid a t-shirt, because when they open their drawer in the morning, I want to grab a t-shirt and have it say DCG football on it selfishly. And that's a way for us to continue to promote the program and do things that make kids want to be a part of it. I think over 23 years, that's the one thing that I've tried to do, is create a opportunity to participate in a program where a kid says, I want to be a part of that. I want to be on the inside versus watching from the outside. And part of that is winning, and part of that is being successful. And we've had years where we've been wildly successful, and we've had years where we've really struggled. We've had both those up and down years, but over the years, we've won a little more than we've lost, which is always good. And then you try to figure out what are the other little intangible things that you can do that make your program desirable for kids to participate in. And it starts with your coaching staff. I always tell guys that when I'm looking for coaches, I want to find people who are passionate about kids and who are passionate about football. And if they have those two things, you sometimes don't worry too much about their experience, or maybe the experience that they lack in some cases. If they love football and they love kids, it's about relationships at the end of the day. And if the kid knows that you believe in them and that you're going to work your butt off for them, they'll work their butt off for you.
Yeah, Coach, I think that's well
Right.
said. Really, today, you've got to promote your own programs. You've got to work you're fighting for attention. That's really what you're doing. And the better you do that, the more community you build. It's just what I call a wheel of success, so to speak.
And it can be trapping sometimes too, because especially with social media right now, I joked the other day or last fall, I forgot to put out our game day tweet until 10 o'clock. And it was like, holy cow. People are like, where's it at? What are you doing? How got to get it out there? And I'm like, holy cow, of all the things that people are worried about today, it's my game day tweet. But that also just tells you that people are watching that stuff. People are looking at it. And so having a presence on social media, whether you love it, hate it, or however, regardless of how you feel about it, that's the reality of where we're coaching and teaching and working with right now. And so having a presence on X, having a presence on Instagram, having somebody on your staff or a kid in your school who's good with the graphics and the quick little videos, stuff gets likes. And that's the stuff that draws people to want to follow your program and check you out. And so I'm not going to tell you that a lot of the ideas are mine. I'm on that borderline edge of loving and hating technology all at the same time. But I've been smart enough to put some people around me that get it and that are handy and that are good at it. So we're going to always try to do the best we can to have a presence on there that's going to grab people's attentions and say, hey, check us out.
Yeah, that's great, Coach. I think your program's one of the best. Just as an outside somewhat observer, I think the Dallas Center Grimes community is leading, and I'd say continue the efforts. Hey, before we go on our last questions, talk a little bit about, you got a team coming together. I think you said June 1st, you can bring in, roll in. Give us a little talk about this fall, what you're excited about.
Yeah. Last year was a really fun year. Let's be honest, winning's more fun than losing. And being able to win 7 games last year was enjoyable. Our kids worked really hard to put themselves in that position. And we knew that there were going to be some nights that were going to be really hard. We also knew that there were going to be some nights that we felt we were going to be very competitive. But to be quite honest with you, we really didn't know what to expect last year. So we really focused on controlling what we could control, which is let's just go to practice every day. Let's work hard. Let's make sure that our game plan is solid. And then let's just go out and play football. We're really excited this summer to get back together. We've got 10 starters back on our offense, which really operated last year. We do have some big holes on defense we have to get sorted out. We lost one of the top tacklers in our class in Connor Stolpe. And probably our defense took the biggest hit in the front 7. We lost a lot of defensive linemen. So that's the area that we need to shore up this summer, make sure that we have the bodies and the guys ready to get back in there. But we're really excited about getting back together over the summertime and we feel like we're going to start maybe a little ahead of where we were a year ago with these returning starters. And we have to be careful not to get into the trap of let's do more, let's add a bunch of stuff in there. I think the fact that we're ahead means that we can just really focus on being even better and even more detail oriented with what we were doing a year ago to execute at even a higher level right now. And yeah, we're excited about what the fall holds for us. We know we're going to have a lot of really important games on our schedule again. And you go back and look at our season last year, and you can look at 4 or 5 games where it could have very easily gone the other way. We're able to make plays, and that's reflective of our last 2 years. In 2024, we had 3 or 4 games that could have gone either way, and they didn't go our way. And you finish at that 2-7 or 3-6, whatever it was. And then the next year they go your way and you flip that thing around. And football is not a complicated game when it really gets down to it. You've got to be really good at a few core things, and you can put yourself in a window to be successful. And that's where we hope to really stress to our kids this summer.
Yeah, Coach, looking at your district this year, give us a little insight in the district you're in. Give us a little color there.
I think year 2 of this district, right away, when you look at our district list, you've got the defending state champions in Dowling in our district. Yep. And so they're year in and year out are always going to be the team that people are going to put up there at the top. And they're going to have the target on their back as the team to beat, not only in the district, but in the state of Iowa. Coach Wilson does it as good as anybody. He's got a tremendous staff over there with him as well. And their kids, when you talk about being fundamentally sound and doing the little things right, they don't beat themselves. And I think that's something that stands out about them every year. So they're the first team I think you have to talk about. And then when you look down at the rest of the district, Waukee Warriors graduated quite a few kids off that team that they had a year ago. But we played them in lower levels, and boy, they have numbers. When you have numbers, you're going to find talent. And so I would expect them to bounce back and have a really solid season again this year. Staying in the metro, we've got, I guess Urbandale's not in our district, but jumping out of the metro, we've got Marshalltown in our district. They run such a tough offense with that option stuff that they run. And I was really impressed with the kids they had up front last year, and a handful of those guys are back. Waterloo West and Kennedy, I think, had a lot of kids like Waukee graduate that were on the field a year ago, and had some really nice kids that they lost. But again, the thing that we've learned in Class 4A is no matter what night you show up, somebody's going to have a tremendous athlete or two on the other side of the field. Teams reload a lot faster than I think maybe you do in some of the smaller classes, just because of their numbers and the depth that they have. So I think you're looking at a wide open district race again, and we fully expect to be in that mix with the teams as well, battling for that district championship. But a few more unknowns with a few of the teams just because of what they graduated. But Coach White over in Kennedy does a tremendous job, and he's going to have players ready to go, and they're going to be really tough again. They always are. Have a great blue collar mentality over there. So it'll be a wide open race again. And I think we were the surprise team last year.
Yeah, you were.
That nobody expected. That kind of crashed the district party a little bit. But 3 teams out of our district were in the final 16 in the postseason.
Yep.
And so I think we have a very solid district, a very deep district, and I would fully expect that to be that way again this year.
Yeah, I would too. It's going to be fun to watch you this fall. So let's go to our fun question.
You bet.
All the guys on our team that do the podcast, we love sports and we love food. So we always love to ask this question, in part, Coach, because when we come to visit you, we want to have a good place to eat. So if I'm coming to Dallas Center Grimes for a home game on a Friday, where would you recommend we stop to get a bite to eat before a game?
Yeah, so our guys that do our stats and stuff that drive, they are fans of the Pizza Ranch. And so they will figure out where the nearest Pizza Ranch is. We don't have one of those in Grimes, but if you're coming into Grimes to catch a game and you're going to come early, I'm going to tell you to stop at a couple places. There's 2 of them that are really good, that are great, tremendous supporters of our school and our program, and are both owned by people that have strong connections to this community. The first is the Food Depot out on 141.
Okay.
You're going to find it out there as you're getting off the interstate and you're heading north towards Grimes. The Food Depot has a tremendous menu for you, great type of pregame sandwiches, some great pizza. You can hit them up if you want, or if you want to get a little closer to the school, get into Grimes and go to Old Downtown and check out Uptown. They've got a tremendous menu and great food there as well. And both places will set you up great before you come on out. Now, if you don't have time to stop ahead of time, the last place you want to go, or just rest assured, if you can't stop in advance, our Booster Club concession stand is amazing.
Okay.
They fire up that grill on Friday night, and when the wind's blowing from the south, I tell them it's a huge distraction because I can smell the chicken sandwiches and the bratwurst and the hot dogs, and hamburgers and cheeseburgers. So if you get out of work a little late and you're hustling, not time to stop at one of those two places, you just know that the DCG Booster Club concession stand will take great care of you when you come out, and you'll have something good waiting for you there.
Yeah, Coach, I like that. Maybe you ought to move that so that smoke wafts over the opponent and throws them off. Might be good for an extra win this fall.
I don't know. They built this big shelter over it and everything now, so I think it's fixed where it's at. So I'm not gonna lie. When I roll in, I usually slip over, and that's my pregame meal. As I go over to the grill, and I go to the concession stand, and I buy what I want, but I say I just want the bun, and they look at me weird at first, but then they realize I get the bun from them, and then I walk over and I take it right off the grill.
Yeah, there you go, Coach. I love that. That's great. Hey, thank you. Now I got 2 new places to try in Grimes, so that's really helpful. Coach, really appreciate you being on the podcast. Best of luck this fall. I love what you do at DCG. Love your booster club. I love the fact that you broadcast your own games to reach the community, and you've got great support from the community, and best of luck this fall. We'll be following you closely. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And thanks for having me on. It's real enjoyable to do this, and keep doing it. You and I talked before we clicked record here that you've got a plan to get a bunch of people on. And I think that it's a great way to bring us as coaches to people both in our community and outside of our community, because the more you know, the more interesting the storyline can be. And like you said, that's our goal here, is to give kids and programs the coverage they want. So thank you. I appreciate you very much.
Yep. Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it.